Glenn, are you there?
I am. I just saw you pop up. So,
What's going on?
goodness. How's your spring break? Going well?
Yeah, I feel like I haven't been to work in like 3 months.
I mean, you had the snow days and then you got to go to baseball. That sounds like a pretty good time.
Yeah, except we got our butts kicked at baseball, so
Oh no, that's not good.
it is what
I'm still sorry to hear that.
it is. But a bad day of baseball beats a good day of
What?
work. A
That's
bad
very
day of
true.
baseball beats a
That's,
good day of work, I guess.
I would agree with that. I would.
So,
Thank you so much for being so flexible with,
um,
doing this now.
no worries. Where are you guys headed?
We're in Utah right now. We went to Arches today,
Nice.
and we're going to Vegas for a little bit, but only for a couple days. Then we're taking like a long trip down to see like the Grand Canyon and just kind of stop along the way and go to Santa Fe for a while.
That's cool. Like a nice little loop down and around.
And I'm pretty happy about it. It's fun.
Nice.
We needed it. So, yeah. All right. I guess we can start.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
how would you like this to go, I guess?
I think like the same as last week.
Awesome.
I mean, we'll just go through. I can introduce, since we kind of jumped ahead last week,
Yeah.
we'll kind of introduce Michelle, as you know Michelle as well, and do some of her can-do descriptors and that kind of stuff. And then we'll get into our writing samples, and we can also talk about, um, I guess you're the grammarian this week, is that?
I
I
am.
We haven't really figured out a great cycle as going through that. And maybe next week we look at, since both of us are, I mean, since there's only two of us, maybe we do like a Google Doc for notes so that we can
Well,
both
that
be
would be good.
taking notes at the same time and not worry about kind of putting the, is it the director?
Yeah, all on and take the lead of it. Yeah, I think that's a
And
good idea.
notes too, and then we can both collaborate on the notes, and then we can submit one each week if you're cool with that, and I'll take notes this week,
Okay.
um, and go from there. Since you took notes last week, and then we can post it.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea.
Okay, sweet. Oh, so sorry, I've got both
Oh,
monitors up.
don't worry. I bet that's kind of hard switching between each one.
So, um, so give me a second just to kind of bear with me here. Jeez. And by the way, your notes were thorough last week. I like that.
Okay, were they? Oh, yeah.
I think the only thing Dr. W said we should make sure we do is have maybe a little bit of stronger next steps.
Yeah. And
So,
even after just reading the chapter and then seeing Michelle's work, I think I at least came up with some ideas that might be
okay,
beneficial for
perfect,
probably her and a lot of our class, but
perfect. All right. So we have Michelle, and Michelle is both of our students, which is awesome that we're able to do another student that we both have. Um, so I have her for literacy, you have her for math, science, and social studies. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what similarities we have
yeah.
and what differences we have. So I have Michelle, and on her access scores,
Hmm.
she was at like a 3.5 overall. Um, so she's kind of right in that developing range.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and so with her can-do descriptors, we have her in that 3.5 range. She's a little bit higher in listening and speaking, and then her reading and writing is a little bit lower.
Mhm.
Um, so her level 3 in listening, where'd it go? I had it right here. She's able to follow multi-step oral directions, identify illustrated main ideas, match literal meanings of oral descriptions and oral reading, and sequence pictures. In speaking, answer simple, constructed-based, content-based questions, retell short stories, make predictions or hypotheses, and offer solutions.
Mhm.
In reading, she is kind of in that middle between beginning and developing,
Okay.
as far as find changes to root words and context being that beginning, but also then taking it to the next step in developing of identifying main ideas and some details and sequence events and stories.
Mhm.
And then in writing, produce simple expository or narrative text, as you saw from the um, writing samples, she does do a good job about the narrative text. And then string related sentences together. She's getting better at doing those things.
Mhm.
As far as Michelle goes, I think one of the crazy things is I had her for the beginning of her third grade year
Oh, really?
as a third grader, and then she moved away and got enrolled into an online school,
Oh, okay.
and then she left and then came back kind of about 2 months into this year. So um, I would have liked to see her stay in our building and get those supports rather than getting to that online school. But that didn't happen, so
Especially
I
'cause I
definitely
think,
saw that
I think,
slide.
oh yeah, yeah, sorry. You continue.
So, um, are you good with those kind of can-do descriptors
Yeah,
and that kind
yeah,
of thing?
I think that sums her up really well. What I see in math a lot is with word problems, she has to, break them apart and graphically represent them in a way which is like awesome. You want every kid to, to do that. But yeah, I would agree with all those. I think she's in that level.
Awesome.
Um,
So then, I guess next would be kind of we look at the adjectives and adverbs,
okay, awesome.
some of the common misconceptions that ELLs have with them, and I guess that's kind of your
Yeah, I
next
can see.
steps. And I will jump over to here and take some notes.
Okay, I'll make sure to try and to space out my sentences. Um,
No, you're good. Just talk, and I'll just get as many ideas as I can down, and then I'll go back and
okay,
reformat
perfect.
them to make sense for Dr. W.
Sounds good. So, like you said, one of the topics for today, the grammar points, is adjectives. And adjectives are words or a word that describes the noun or pronoun in a sentence. And some common ELL errors are misplacements of the adjectives after the noun. So the example that's given in our book is China is a country big. So instead of saying, China is a big country, they put it after um, the noun. Um, Another common error would be making adjectives plural. So these books are very cheap instead of just these books are very cheap.
Mm.
Um, and then wrong comparative form. So China is more big than India. And then just the lack of adjective endings is another error that happens. So in the summer, the weather here is very rain. So instead of saying the weather here is very rainy, it doesn't have that ending of an ly. Um, so adjectives, there's different types of adjectives. There are possessive adjectives, demonstrative adjectives, quantity adjectives, descriptive adjectives. And those we can maybe talk about more when we look at Michelle's writing.
Okay.
I guess I can jump over to talking about what adverbs are. And so adverbs is a word that modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. So a common ELL.
Give me 1 second.
Oh,
Just
sorry. I said I was
no,
going to give you time, and I'm not.
no, you're good. I just wanted to be thorough so I don't miss anything.
Yeah.
Especially with how good your notes were last week. I don't want to kind of set her up to. Oh, so when Mike takes the notes, it's
I think that's a brilliant idea, though, about doing a Google Doc. So we can
because then
just,
we can kind of just have it both open and just bounce those off, and we can each type into it.
exactly.
Okay, go ahead. Thanks.
No worries. So did you get the adverb being a word that modifies a verb,
Mhm.
adjective, or another adverb?
I was just didn't want to fall behind on the common misconceptions.
Yes. So just a common misconception could be a lack of an adverb ending. So he plays the violin very beautiful instead of beautifully. Um, and then misplacements of the adverbs. So I like very much this food, and instead of saying um, I like this food very much. Um, just also wrong adverb forms. The example is the professor explained the lesson detailly. It's even a hard word for me to say,
You
but
can't even get it out.
yeah. So instead of being like in detail, just putting the wrong adverb form onto the end. Or underusing, I guess, use of much and very much in different statements. So I want to learn Spanish very much versus like I want to learn Spanish. So I really want to learn Spanish. Um, and I guess we also were talking in our later part of our book about adjective clauses. If we do, we want to talk about that a little bit too.
You can, yeah. That I definitely read about that and found that an interesting section.
Yeah, I realize the more and more into this, the less I know about grammar and how my mind is just opening more and more. Um, so I guess adjective clauses is a clause that describes or gives information about a noun. Um, and kind of compared to a noun, nouns usually come before. Um, the adjective usually comes before a noun in normal sentences. Adjective clauses come after the noun. And they usually begin with words like who, that, which, whom, and whose. And it kind of just depends what you're describing, what word you'd use. So if you're describing people or things, you can use that. But if you're just describing people, you would use who or whom. And if you're just describing things, you could use which. But that is the one that's for both people and things. Now I'm
Mhm.
rambling.
No, you're good. No, that was an important point. Uh, I didn't really, when I read the chapters, I didn't think about an adjective clause versus just an adjective and an adverb,
Mhm.
having that come afterwards and explaining and being able to explain to kids why that does come
Yeah.
afterwards.
And it's
Which,
interesting how I realize after, reflecting on my own teaching, how I push for, use an adjective, describe it, and I haven't really pushed for using adjective clauses. So
mhm.
it's kind of good to open up my eyes on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. So next would be, um, so we describe the students. Would
Mhm.
would you? we described Michelle,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just kind of going through your notes last week, making sure we don't miss any.
Yeah.
So then we will now go into identification of some grammar errors
Mm-hmm.
in Michelle's work as we go through and making some notes about those.
Yeah.
Is there a particular piece you wanted to start with before another?
It's whatever you have up and whatever you find would be easiest.
Okay. I'm super lucky that we had the Google Docs going
Oh my
in our
goodness.
school so that I could get a student sample this week after being gone Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
So,
You really do get a good break now, I'm realizing. Now a whole week in front of you.
okay. So let's take a look. We'll go with um, her class book.
Okay.
That's more about her. We were just doing the class books, and so I
Sure.
thought that one would be a good one, especially after um, Karen's example last week when you pulled about her. Um,
And this
as
is so recent, so that's good.
Yeah, this is very recent as we're getting ready to publish those books. So I thought that that would be good to have.
I liked her ending of "This is the end of my life,"
This is
which
the end of my life.
was pretty cute.
That's all we have to look forward to. I didn't realize how hard it would be to take notes and talk and listen.
It's definitely a challenge. But you know what I'm really liking about how I know we're supposed to be looking at grammar points, but just in this one, I like how your second paragraph, it's about the colors. I'm assuming, did you tell them like what you had to describe why they were your favorite colors?
Uh,
Or did she?
I mentioned that, and she kind of ran with that. So
Awesome.
that was cool to see her. Blue is the color of the sky. Pink goes with the store pink, and green goes with the grass outside.
Yeah. I think, you know, she's able to describe things which adjectives are doing. Which I thought was really good. So, I was born in Colorado. She's very grateful. Great. She goes with the story.
Um, I wonder if there was a different way for her to describe the sky because
Mm-hmm.
blue is the color of the sky, pink goes with the store pink. She's describing those colors, but she's just giving a very concrete
Yeah.
example. Is there a way to take an adjective to the next level in that writing? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, expanding vocabulary and stuff kind of helps, or being a little more descriptive of like describing the color of the sky or talking, the light blue color of the sky or the dark blue color of the sky. Those little words that help describe um, the noun really can affect how the sentence is formed, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Um, and I noticed for one of the big errors that I saw was maybe the lack of adjectives
Yeah,
in her writing. When she talks about her two dogs, Lola and Buddy, down at the bottom, and her family, there's no going into more detail or description. So there, as I look at my teaching, how do I get her to expand more and to describe more using adjectives about those people in her life and
yeah,
about those
kind of
that we see?
maybe somehow instilling, like kind of, when you read a passage of a book or something, you kind of stop and you have kids picture in their mind what they see.
Mm-hmm.
And I know something I do in my class is we start with like a word, and everyone has to picture a word. So maybe we'll start with like a bear. And then as a class, we start describing the bear, like how tall he is, the color he is, the fur type he is, where he is, and like the details about that. And then they have to write a story about that sometimes. And it's interesting to see how the adjectives come into play. Because we talked about it as a whole group kind of thing, like the black bear, was riding a unicycle in a circus kind of thing. But they get very descriptive about it because as we're talking about it as a class, they're closing their eyes and forming the picture in their mind before they write.
I like that idea, and I just started to note that in our next steps as like maybe a next step
Oh yeah.
for my class before they go into the writing to focus on those things.
Yeah, to make a mental picture and like even just maybe draw it or jot down like things they see. Um, and it's interesting also to then kind of do the reverse. I've done where I'll give them like a word, like I gave them water once, like last week, and they were going to just do a writing piece about water. And they had to come up with the mental picture in their mind and then describe the water. And I had some writing stories about filling up their cup with water. I had some writing stories about going to the ocean or going to a river. And it's interesting to see how those words can branch out into other, descriptive stories.
Um, okay, so I'll put that as well.
And I look at how she's able to describe things like physically, two dogs kind of thing, instead of just my dogs. So she is describing the number of dogs she has. But you're right. She I guess has like quantity adjectives, but she doesn't, she's kind of lacking in the descriptive ones.
Yeah, and as I looked through her writing more and more, I saw that as coming out
Mm-hmm.
not just in her writing, but in many of my students' writing.
Yeah. And that's interesting because I would assume usually when kids are writing about themselves or about things they're comfortable with, they'd be more descriptive than if they were writing about something they didn't have a good idea or about.
Okay. Do you want to jump over to the other one about
Oh, about her house. Mm-hmm.
moved?
Yeah.
And
And this, oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead.
Well, I was realizing when I looked at this quickly before, I thought of the adjective clause sentences kind of thing. Um, and I realized in her last paragraph here, she's talking about her new neighborhood. And she's like, I got to see my new neighborhood. I met a new friend in the school. There's a lot of trees in my neighborhood. There's a lot of animals in my neighborhood. But I think with adjective clauses, at least correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be wrong, they kind of can combine two sentences a little bit. Two sentences that could be independent, they can combine them in a way. Let me see the example they gave. If I can find it.
Are you looking for adjective clauses?
Here, I think I found it. So, like an example they gave was the book has 200 pages and then the book is on the table. So those are
Mm-hmm.
two
Yeah, I
independent
remember that
sentences.
example.
Um, but they can combine it using like, kind of that leading word that. The book that is on the table has 200 pages. And I wonder if, working with her um, on that last paragraph about, maybe trying to combine some of the sentences like I got to see my new neighborhood that has a lot of trees and animals in it or something like that instead of having all the sentences.
Uh, Taking away uh, those simple sentences and adding those more complex ideas of, like you said, taking that idea and expanding it to exactly like the way you said it.
Because then that sentence is describing how the neighborhood has trees as an adjective. It's describing it has animals as an adjective in it. Hmm.
That's a good next step for her.
Yeah. And something that I was thinking maybe with adjective clauses, as like a next step, because I was realizing, how I was saying how I haven't taught that idea of describing things. I kind of just talked, be descriptive about the noun, and
Mhm.
describe what it looks like in this and that. I never thought about the adjective clause afterwards. And I thought about, I want to do like a whole class, like, um, have a reading passage and we'll go through and underline adjective clauses. And then, I'll lead the beginning and then we'll kind of follow the I do, we do, you do scaffolding method, where after I do it a little bit, then we'll do it as a class, and then independently they can start finding independent clauses in reading passages just so they're aware of what they are and how they can be used. Um, and then I thought even a next step off of that, is coming up with, I guess, bags, like little baggies with different sentence strips in it that maybe can be formed into one or two sentences. Kind of maybe for Michelle is like taking these sentences and trying to form them into one. And that could even be a station, of like, you have to get through 10 bags a week kind of thing, with 10 different sentences that can be put together to form, better sentences.
Yeah. Um,
I just ranted.
no, you're good. You're good. Something that I saw was back up at the top of her writing.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how it looked like it had a big backyard. Um, and so she used big over and over. And seeing that
Yeah.
maybe as she used that same adjective twice to describe something, is
Mm-hmm.
finding a way to expand her adjective uses. So
Yeah.
part of her error is, no one wants to hear a story that uses the big wolf went and
Yeah.
then the big wolf, over and over again, that they want to vary those. Um,
And we could even thinking about, trying to integrate, because I think you're right. And I think kind of a next step from that could be, oh, sorry, my phone. Uh, could be, trying to expand their ideas, I mean, and their knowledge of synonyms and antonyms of the words, you know, and we could do a circle map of it with, the word in the middle with different synonyms around the word. So instead of big, you could use gigantic or enormous, or, just allowing them time to broaden their vocabulary. I could
yeah,
see their adjective uses getting better.
absolutely. Um, Something that I also thought about was, as a next step, especially with my kids, is kind of turning this into kind of a riddle, using adjectives to solve a riddle where I give them an object, um, I mean, we could start simple for discussion's sake as like an apple, and they have to describe it as round, red, if it is a red apple.
Yeah.
Assuming that's not a green one. You know, describing that it has a stem, that and having another student after they describe this try to guess what their object was, and kind of playing a little bit of game where they're working on describing something without actually telling someone what it was, so that when they go to their writing and we say, hey, describe this, they have kind of that tool bag to describe in detail what they're talking about.
Oh, I think that's a great idea. And working on that kind of descriptive writing will help so much. And that could be a quick activity that's done at the very beginning, when kids are coming in, find an item and describe it. And then, see if the other kids can guess it. I remember when I was student teaching, we had a writing prompt where kids got to draw a snow globe, as if they were trapped in their snow globe. And then they had to write a narrative piece that was so detailed, describing their snow globe, that I could be able to pick out what snow globe they drew just based upon their description. So kind of following on that riddle thing of that matching items to really descriptive writing is a great idea. Because I think with her, the next step, because I'm looking, and she doesn't seem to be portraying that many, errors of, things that could be fixed if talked about. It's really having her expand on hers.
Mm-hmm.
I think, well, she has some errors, I feel, but I think her next step is really to just become more descriptive, and with adverbs, if she's describing how she's feeling or what she sees, they
Kind of taking it to the next level.
yeah, thank you, I kind of blanked.
She's proficient in that she can say it was a big backyard.
Mm-hmm.
She described the backyard as big. That's great,
Mm-hmm.
as she goes through. But taking that, well, what made the backyard big? Was
Yeah,
there a large garden? Was there an expansive green, grassy area for her to play in? Was there a big playground set?
yeah.
What made it a big backyard?
Mm-hmm.
It could be as simple as I've never had a backyard before, so
Yeah,
any backyard is big to her. But her taking that and explaining that, um, could be a huge next step for her.
yeah, I would agree with that. Because like you were saying in the beginning, she's very concrete, she can say quantity adjectives, she can, she can per she can say the information, but
Hmm.
it definitely doesn't paint that picture that we want when reading things.
And I think part of that is that disconnect that she's had where she was with us. She went to an online school where I can't say exactly what she got at there, but I don't think it was the best thing for her. And then to come back and to miss some of those bridging steps as she went along.
Yeah, and I know she's not exposed to English at home. Her parents are both only speak Spanish at home, and I think her siblings and stuff too.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I agree.
but it is exciting to see because she can portray herself verbally. She can describe things. At least on Monday morning, she comes in with the greatest stories of her weekend, and she describes them so well compared to some students who You have Ramon too, don't you?
Yes.
Like Ramon can get lost in his sentences and
Mhm.
lost in what he's saying.
Yeah.
Um, Compared to Michelle, who can, you see that she can, dive deeper into it based upon her verbal, like communicating skills.
Mhm.
But yeah, writing can be taken up because we see she can do that.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, and like we talked about at the beginning of this, her listening and her speaking do fall above her reading and her writing in her can do,
Which I'm sure is common.
and she's almost getting into that expanding when we look at some of the can do descriptors. Um, she can offer creative solutions to issues and problems and some of those things where, or answer opinion questions with supporting details. She's getting into those steps. So how do we get her to take her oral can do's and put them into her writing can do's?
Yeah. And I'm sure kind of with the ideas that we were coming up with, just that exposure to it will just help a lot
Yeah.
because she's so smart. She really is. And she has the capability of taking it to that, like she's one of my higher ones in my math class. And she has the ability to take things to the next level. But I think, like you were saying, that's her verbal and skills, and we just need to transfer it onto writing.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. And it's also interesting to see her writing because I haven't seen that much of it,
Oh,
except for like journal prompts and like when we're learning about history and stuff and science questions and stuff. But other than that,
the cool thing when I look at these is when I first got her as a third grader, before she left, getting 2 to 3 sentences on the page was a challenge.
oh, then she has done awesome.
And now it's writing time and she just goes and she will fill up a whole page. And so now it's starting to get her to go, well, wait a second, what are you talking about being on topic, being focused?
Yeah.
Before it was just getting anything down on the page when you look at something that she did before.
Hmm.
Um, I actually found one of her old prompts from last year and it was 4 sentences long. And then
Wow.
when I looked at one of her prompts on on here that was more recent, she's getting at least the paragraph structure and getting 2 to 3 sentences a paragraph. So that's
And she's forming sentences too, she's forming, though, like we were saying, we want more kind of thing, we
mm-hmm.
want better sentences. Like she's still able to form concrete sentences.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them she kind of rambles and stuff, but like that can be toned back and like that can be talked about. Um,
Okay.
and to hear how much growth she made, that's actually really encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. She's an awesome kid.
Yeah,
So,
she is. She's super sweet.
um, so one of the just going back to some of Dr. W's feedback
Yeah.
from our week 1 PLC group.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she said we did a great job with everything, is just kind of being more specific. Do you feel like we were more specific
I
this
think so.
some next steps?
I think we came up with some really good next steps, especially for her, but also for classes too, would
Yeah,
benefit from them.
her writing isn't in isolation of my room. There's
Exactly.
definitely groups of kids that follow into that same trend that
Yeah.
you know can describe and use adjectives, the big backyard, the large tree, those simple, putting them in the correct order. Like one of the misconceptions that a lot of ELLs have is they've gotten past putting them in the wrong order. The tree big, the big tree in, but going past it to the next step. So
Exactly. Now that she has the order of it, moving forward from there. And I think even maybe making, kind of like a student leader every week or like a group of student leaders every week to come up with overused adjectives like big, and come up with synonyms that they can use, and talk more descriptive language that they can use. They can just come up with that kind of stuff. I think that'll work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I think, did we cover it all?
We got her can-do descriptors.
Awesome.
And I just need to touch those up in the notes and go through those just to make sure I have the correct ones in there. And then we went through the grammar points, and you made some really good points as some of the things to look out for with ELL students. And then we identified her student errors, and then we came up with some next steps. And I think we were better about being a little more specific in our next steps. So hopefully that can.
Yeah, I think
accomplish what Dr. W wanted, and I think it gives me a lot of good next steps that I can take next week after spring break, right
yeah.
back to her, and take her description of things to the next step and the next level.
Yeah, they're easily implemented into the classroom.
Mm-hmm. And they're quick fixes.
Yeah.
Kind of just getting her to think more,
Mm-hmm.
getting myself to expand their ideas as well.
Because she can. We know she can. So awesome.
How long were we on? About 45?
I think we started around 35. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Lose track of time, and I don't know if we did everything. So
I think we did.
Okay. Well, I'm going to. I probably won't get to the notes tonight. I'm going to save them and just get to typing those up in the morning, just so I'm a little more fresh than I am now.
Yeah, take some time off. Do you have anything planned for spring break?
Just baseball. We have a couple games and some practices that we got to get squared away.
Awesome.
So I'll be hanging around here. Your trip sounds awesome.
I'm liking it.
When do you get back into town?
Kind of just depends. We were thinking about stopping at Great Sand Dunes and Taos, and that's something we weren't planning on. So we were going to be back on Friday, but it might be Saturday. But I can, whatever works for you next week.
Okay, I was just wondering when you were thinking about doing our next week's PLC.
What would work for you?
I'm pretty much open. I've got, games Wednesday and Thursday nights, so other than that, I can do whenever works. So if you want to wait till you get back and that kind of thing, we can do that, but whenever works.
Okay. Yeah, I brought some work that I can look through to find some samples and things, so.
Yeah, I didn't have any because I didn't get to go to work. So I might be in on Monday or Tuesday with Carlos getting some stuff.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just gonna go back and grab some stuff.
Okay.
So
I was like, are you going into work?
No, just to grab some stuff so I can actually get some stuff into educate and empower.
Oh yeah.
Things are up to date, but
I'm behind on that. I need to. But we also have Monday when we get back, 4 hours of that. So.
And when is our makeup snow days?
Oh my goodness. They sent out a robocall. We gave up, I'm pretty sure, our teacher exchange day.
Right.
And then it pushes back another day into summer.
And then it's Thursday, and then our work day is Friday or something.
I'm kind of bummed about because we're only over by 1 day, so I don't know why we're making up 2.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, because I thought they built in 3 days.
Yeah.
You have to make up 2.
That's a 2. Oh well.
Right. Okay.
Alrighty.
Well, sweet. I'll get these typed up, and I figured it was okay just to share the document ahead of time with you before I posted it. So I'll post her samples right before I post our notes.
Post it probably all together.
Yeah, since it was the two of us and you know about her a little bit more than
Yeah,
most group would. So I'll post the background with her samples and then the notes tomorrow morning, just so we make sure we're on time and we don't have any late assignments. Um,
perfect.
and
I
then,
think we're golden.
okay,
Awesome.
sounds good, Glenna.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.